All right. Hello, everyone. We are officially back for episode number 4. I nailed that. Yeah,
You did.
yay.
I am so impressed. Finally, after like our four, not finally that you nailed it. I just mean we actually sound professional at episode number 4.
Yeah, but no, I did. I would say finally as well because it took us 4 episodes, 4 tries. So third time is not always the charm. That's the moral of the story, guys.
Yep.
So yeah,
The
there you
fourth
go.
is better anyway.
Exactly. I would totally agree with that. So, hello, here we are for another episode of Feast, Famine, and Freelancing. I don't know why I always have to think about it. It's so goofy, but I just have to make sure like that is the right title.
Maybe
Yes,
we
it
should do F3.
is. We might have to. I think that would be simpler.
Eventually,
But
we'll be like,
yes, I'm not gonna. I'm doing the best I can here, guys.
yeah.
Yes. So, Feast, Famine, and Freelancing. We are back. Hello. Welcome if you're just joining us. And if you are, a little bit about what we do here. We are here to give you the skinny on all things freelancing. If you have wanted to freelance and are thinking about freelancing, want to dip your toe into the freelance pool, this is your place to be because Sam and I know a thing or two about freelancing, don't we, Sam?
Oh, yeah.
We do. We do.
Yes, we do.
And if you're wondering about our origin story, highly recommend you check out episode 1. And if you want to know more details about other really cool things and helpful things, check out episodes 2 and 3. We've got some really good stuff in there. We
You
talk
know,
about
with
Sam.
episodes and origins, it's like we're Star Wars of the freelance world.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. I love that. We are Star Wars fans up in here. Okay. The spin offs, we love it all. Yes, absolutely. This is the way, Sam. This is the way.
Thank you. That's my favorite meme you send me.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely check it out. Yes, we're a little bit goofy, but I think it makes it fun. So I think you'll find that most of the episodes will fly past because we're not dry. We're not really, we like to have some fun over here. And we like to make fun of ourselves because
Hmm.
life would just be dull and probably sad. So,
If you can't
anyway,
laugh at yourself, yeah.
exactly. So, all of that out of the way, episode 4, woohoo, we're going to talk about 2 topics that we mentioned last week. If you're wondering, Sam, I'm going to put you on the spot in terms of the order we want to go in. I suspect I know what it is, but how should we tackle this? What are we doing first? Contracts or
I think
ghost?
contracts because ghosting will lead into that, I think. What do you think?
Yes. No, I agree. Exactly. I think that's perfect. I suspect that's what you were going to go with, but just wanted to confirm. All right.
Thank
So, here we
you.
are.
Oh my God, I just saw episode 4, like golf. That's amazing. Sorry,
Yes.
I just had to say that. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, so just a quick little backstory in case people are wondering what are they talking about. So we record our episodes in teams, and so in order to do that, I will send Sam a meeting invite for the episode, and I try to be really clever with each of the episode titles that I send her, the meeting invites. So today naturally was episode 4. That's what she's talking about in case you're wondering. Yes, you're welcome. We're here all day.
Yeah, we are. All week, actually, all the time.
There you go. So, with that out of the way, Sam, please take it away. Contracts. Ooh, so fun, so sexy. Ooh, contracts. Let's talk
I
about
know
it.
who wouldn't want to hear this on a Thursday as you're closing off your week. So, with our years of freelance, like we said, a lot of times clients don't require contracts. It's basically you're like on an as needed basis, so to speak. So basically, you'll just get an email stating, "Oh, we'll reach out when we need you. Here's your hourly rate. Please sign." What am I trying to say? Just submit your invoices when you're done, is what I mean. For example, I just worked on a book, editing a book, and I didn't sign a contract or anything. They just send me a brief. That's the word I was looking for. So they give me the hours they think it'll take, how much they're going to pay me an hour. And then at the end, I just submit an invoice to their system. So no contract involved. No, yeah. So I love those are straightforward emails that you can save and archive so that if they ever come back and are like, hey, we didn't say that, you have it. Going to the contract part, those get a little bit tricky. And I know you're like, oh, I'm so excited, freelancing contract, I'm going to sign. Make sure you read them, especially
Yes,
for payment terms, because that's something that you want to and make sure upfront. And it's also something you may want to negotiate. For
absolutely.
example, Nicole, I'm going to use you as an example. payment terms were like 60 days in the contract.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
You
my
know,
bills are not going to wait 60 days, guys. So
no.
read your contracts before you sign them. Make sure that there's room for negotiation. Don't sign something that is not going to work for you. At the end of the day, no one pays their bills every 2 months.
Yeah.
Everyone has bills every single month. So you have to be able to negotiate that or get clarification. Sometimes it's just a boilerplate that companies use. So you want to make sure that's clear up front, because the worst thing you want to do is get into something and then think you're going to get your paycheck at a certain time and turns out
Mm.
going to be, oh, yeah, it's 60 days. That's what we said. Yeah.
And one thing I just ran into with a couple clients is upfront ask for their payment schedule.
Yeah.
Like once you get set up in the system, like for example, a place that I'm working for now sent me a Excel document of the payment schedule and when you need to get your invoices in. So they pay every 2 weeks. So you
Mhm.
just have to make sure that whoever's handling you, as I like to call it, like we're spies and we have handlers,
Yes, that's
that
my
they
favorite.
that they sign off on your invoice, and which they always do because they know they're super cognizant of the fact that you need to be paid and they don't want to lose you.
Exactly.
But don't
And
be afraid to advocate and stand up for yourself, because you'd be like, no, 60 days doesn't work, I would like 2 weeks.
yeah, exactly.
And
And
that's not unreasonable, that's pretty much standard now.
yes, and to Sam's point, and something I want to tease out a little bit, so people don't feel like, oh my goodness, this is not realistic as a freelancer. I can't wait. Not forget 60 days. I can't wait 30 days to get paid. Something to think about, in addition to the fact that you can negotiate your payment terms, you have to think about the fact most companies, when they say net 30 or whatever they call it, they have different terms for it. But if they say that you're going to get paid every 30 days, that is almost always, very rarely, unless they put some funky language in the contract, that means 30 days from the time you submit your invoice. And the reason why that's important to highlight is because something really cool is going to happen if you work for a client every single week. And what I mean by that is, if you work for a client every single week, even though their payment terms is every 30 days from the submission of your invoice, submit your invoices every week. What will end up happening is you will end up with a cadence of every 1 to 2 weeks of payment. And you're
Yep.
wondering, like, that makes no sense. It does. It's a snowball effect. So today you start, you work a full week, you submit your invoice next week. It's going to be 30 days from that date. But then the following week, you're going to submit another invoice. It's going to be 30 days from that date. So it's going to start catching up. The
Yep, and week
invoices
a
will
week,
start
or like
catching up.
you said, and then it becomes super manageable with bills and everything.
Absolutely. And you can actually get to a point, if you're submitting every week, you can actually very much get paid every single week if you, as long as you're submitting your invoices on time. Keep that in mind. It's not going to magically happen for you if you're not submitting your invoices on time. But that's something to keep in mind. So it might be a little bit deferred for the first month, but once you get that first month out of the way, it's going to start coming in like clockwork as long as you're submitting your invoices on time.
Yep. And also, too, one thing, like a weird thing, especially in this day and age, is make sure that they agree to direct deposit,
Oh my gosh, yes.
because I had a client where it was paper checks. And so not only did I have to submit my invoice and wait for the payment, I had to wait for a check.
Yes, and also, to be very honest, depending on who you're working with, not that they have to be a dubious client. There's that old excuse, oh, it's in the mail. And
Yes, I
so,
got them lost. Yeah.
oh, are you sure? I sent it out with the mail last Friday. That's so weird. You can get rid of all of that by simply getting direct deposit. And most companies nowadays, there's no reason why they can't do that. If you're working one on one with someone, then use another payment method. Use PayPal. There's so many options
Oh,
out
yeah,
there.
Venmo.
There's
Yeah.
no reason that you cannot get paid electronically, whereas as opposed to having them mail you a paper check, there's way too many electronic options available. That is just not reasonable to expect that, especially if you've turned in the work, is to their satisfaction, then you deserve to be paid in a timely fashion.
Yeah. And also, you have to, like, besides waiting for the mail, you have to wait for the check to clear.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
So that's
Exactly.
another, could be another 3 days.
Yeah. So, as much as possible, definitely do that. And then the other side of it, and I don't want to jump the gun, Sandy, do you want to
Oh,
say
no,
anything?
go ahead.
Okay. We have started talking about the types of payment terms and what you're signing, but there's a flip side to that. When you have your own business, you will likely have to create your own contracts as well. If you're working with clients that are, and not necessarily clients that are not established, but clients who want you to develop the contract, you're going to have to draft your own contract. So don't draft something that's going to put you in the, don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Make sure your contract is clear, especially when it comes to payment terms. Make sure that you list what happens if there's a disagreement. That's another really important thing. I have actually been burned by clients who just didn't want to pay the invoice, but because I didn't outline what would happen if we had a disagreement, then I'm the one who's out of pocket of those funds.
Oh my god, I didn't
So,
even think of that. That's an excellent point.
yeah, be very clear about that. And some clients, unfortunately, will know that and they'll actually use that against you. So, if you didn't say, for example, if you're not satisfied with the terms or if you're not satisfied with the deliverable, here's the remediation. Here's how you can address whatever needs to be resolved. You are allowed one or two revisions, whatever the case is. At the end of the day, you still did the work. And unless you did shoddy work, there's no reason why you shouldn't get paid for the work. Sometimes people don't want to pay. That's the reality of it. And you need to protect yourself by making sure that the contract outlines what happens in those events.
Yeah, and also to piggyback off of that, when you submit invoices, like you can create your contracts, but I also create my own invoice and reiterate the payment terms on the invoice. So there's never any I didn't realize that kind of
Exactly.
BS. So I'll be
Yes.
like, here's my total
Yep.
payment terms, 15 days or whatever.
Yep. And the best way to create your invoice is through Excel. There's a lot of templates out there, and maybe at some point we can make that available to you guys. The reason why I'm suggesting Excel is because you can calculate things pretty easily if you have formulas in place. So that way it takes a lot of the guesswork and also it eliminates the error factor if you're trying to do the calculations by hand.
I've done
And
that.
I'm just saying, so there's makes it really straightforward. And even though you're thinking, oh, Excel, that doesn't seem very polished, you can absolutely create a really clean and nice template in Excel. Don't let it fool
Hmm.
you. You can make it format, you can do all sorts of really cool things. So it looks like a straight up template that you would have in Microsoft Word. Maybe we can put some like helpful links. Not sure if it's going to be ready by Thursday's episode, but at some point we'll share some of the links of what we use, which are really helpful. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I did mention this in the last episode or alluded to it, is about how to make sure your contract is airtight. And that goes whether you're creating the contract or whether they're giving you a contract to sign. I would highly recommend, if you don't already, to consider having either an attorney or some type of legal service because at some point you're going to need it and it's terrible to need it and not have it.
Yeah.
And that's the worst. And you're like, okay, nobody who can afford to keep an attorney. All of us actually. There's one really cool service that I use actually called Prepaid Legal, or maybe they're called something different now. I think it's now Legal Shield. It used to be called Prepaid Legal, and you pay essentially $30 a month. And that actually gets you some really cool services. They'll actually draft a will and testament for you if you need that. They will review contracts for you, whether you're creating the contract or someone else's, before you sign on the dotted line. They will file disputes for you. So if you need to send a demand letter to a client that's, I don't want to pay, they can draft that for you. It's very worth the money considering it's only $30 a month. I've only had to use it a handful of times. I've actually used it to get a refund and cancel a service I had for a very expensive product. I will not say the name, but we used it to get a demand letter sent to this very big mainstream company that had crappy product. And we weren't happy with it and we didn't want to keep paying on it. So we were able to use them to draft the letter on our behalf. For $30 a month, considering we got back thousands of dollars, totally
Yeah.
worth it, guys. Especially as a freelancer, highly recommend. There are things that you're going to have to just have as an expense. And that is one of the things I cannot recommend more highly. I'm not saying you have to go through prepaid legal. Just find another company similar. I'm sure there are other competitors that will allow you to say, okay, you can have essentially subscription legal services, right? We pay every month for insurance, for medical insurance. We hope we don't have to use it, but thank goodness we have it when we do. It's the same exact concept. You never really know when you're going to need it. So, another just really good recommendation, make sure you have some type of legal service on retainer.
Yep. And to that point too, clients don't realize the clout that we have as a freelance community.
Yep,
So we could technically blackball them, so to speak. Like
absolutely.
drop the name, hey, this company doesn't pay invoices, watch out. And
Yep,
then all of a sudden they'll be looking for freelance help and no one. They won't be able to
exactly.
find anyone. So
And we're
just
not
keep that in mind too to save other freelancers from the same fate, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely speak up if you had a really bad experience with a specific client. And now we're not talking about that you didn't do what you're supposed to do. We're talking about if it was a client that was either did not pay you or was requesting too many revisions for the rate that you were charging. Something that very clearly puts the fault on their side. Definitely put it out there. There's so many forums you can do that. Reddit is one that comes to mind. Reddit gets reviewed by a bunch of people. I'm sure you can probably do a Google review somehow. If you see the company name, you can put in a review there. You can go to the Freelancers Union. Pretty sure they have some type of forum as well. But just get the word out there because you don't want other people to go through what you went through, just as a courtesy public service type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like to go back to like contract and payment and even hit upon taxes real quick. One thing I've been noticing with newer clients is they have the time entry system, so you don't have to worry about invoices. They have it where you can just enter your time in their system and it goes
Yes.
directly for direct deposit.
Yes, definitely.
And they take taxes out, which is amazing. So you don't have to worry about that either.
Yeah, and that is one thing that's what I call the holy grail. You can find a freelance job that is through an agency that they do all of the paperwork for you. That's literally, you have arrived, seriously, where you don't have to worry about the taxes because they'll do that. You don't have to worry about payroll, any of those things, because the agency is essentially acting as those things on your behalf. So, yes, ideally, of course, who doesn't want to have that in the long run? But in the meantime, obviously, there are things that you need to do. And this applies, doesn't matter what kind of freelance job you're doing, you have to protect yourself. Don't assume or don't think, oh, we have a really good working relationship. I'm never going to need to worry about this. Do not do any work without a contract in place, even if it's just a very simplistic contract. Here's the agreement, what's going to be paid, who's going to do what, and have you both sign it. If nothing else, do that because you never know when it's going to come back. I have actually had situations where I had long term clients that did not actually have a contract in place, and then they were having some financial difficulty. And so then they said, we're just not going to pay it this time around. No justification. The work was done. But because I didn't have a contract, there was really nothing I could do about it, except, sure, I could have gone to small claims court, but sometimes the clients are not in your state. So you have to
Oh
think
yeah.
about the laws in their state, and then they have to be served in their state. And it ends up being so not worth the time, and so now you're just out the money. And unfortunately, these people, 9 times out of 10, they know that. And so they will use that to their advantage. So you have to
Yep.
be smart and protect yourself because they're not going to do it for you.
Yeah, they kind of bank on the fact bank. They kind of bank on the
Yeah,
fact that you're not going to fight for it if it's like a small amount.
exactly. So you need to just be careful with that. And also, oh, this is another huge one, especially.
That's what she said.
That's what, yes, yes, exactly. That's what she said. So, this is especially the case if you're working on a long term project or if you're working, I would say, with Not an established, but like a one on one client. Here's what I always recommend: always collect a retainer upfront, no exceptions, no matter what. If you're going to do a service for someone, you need to make sure that you're not going to be out some of that money. So I highly recommend collecting a retainer upfront, and you can actually do it in intervals. Let's say you have a book that's, I don't know, 300,000 words. That's a lot of words, but let's just pretend it's a really long book. What you don't want is to put in all this effort, put in months of work, and only get the money at the end. You still have bills to pay, right? So, collect it at intervals. Even if you don't say collect, a lot of people do this, and this is not something that should shock anyone. If you think about all of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, anything that you are setting aside, let's for example say you're going to book a place, you're booking a reception hall, right? And it's for the end of December and you're booking it today. What do they collect up front, guys? What do they collect? A retainer, a deposit. Yes, this is no different. So if you think about it from that perspective, they are protecting their interest, and you should protect yours. So
Exactly.
if your client is, oh no, absolutely not, you should that should probably set off some bells in your head. I'm not saying you're obviously not going to collect 100% upfront, but I would say somewhere between 25 and 50% upfront, because that is also protection to you. What if they hightail it and then you hand them everything and then they disappear? At least you collected half the money. So that is also a huge protection for you. This is not unheard of. Most, especially those who are very well known in the space, they will do that. The only caveat I would add there is if you're working through an agency, then that's different because you have some clear protections in place. In place, yes.
It's Sunday. We're allowed to do
Sure.
that.
Yes, exactly. You have
Or
some clear.
Thursday, excuse me. I
Well,
don't know what
Thursday
day
for
it
you
is anymore.
guys, but we're recording on Sunday. Obviously, we don't record the day that it's, well, with the exception of last week, but who's counting? Typically, we like to record ahead of time. So, yes, it is Sunday morning for us right now. But yes, you want to have some protections in place. So, I always recommend you collect some type of retainer because by the time you're at least halfway through, that money will have been earned. And even places like Upwork will do that. They actually will have the money held in escrow so that it also protects you so you're not doing work for nothing. So, yes, highly recommend collect a retainer, some type of retainer, so that you have some type of funds by the time the project is done in the event that unfortunately you have a client that's just going to up and run.
Yeah, and the thing that burns my biscuits, so to speak, is that I think they think that if it's a small invoice, like you said, oh, they're like big deal. Even if
Yep.
it's like 500 under or that it to us that's a lot of money, so to speak. And it's like, come on, it may not be a lot of money to them, but for us that's what we survive on.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't even, it could be $100, it could be $50. It's the principle of the matter. If you agreed to a set amount, you agreed to do a service and you've done the service and then you don't get paid to do the service, that's not right. So it doesn't really matter like the dollar amount. What matters is you completed the work. You should be paid for the work. That's it. It doesn't. You shouldn't have to say it wasn't that much money, so who cares? I'll get over it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be for $10.
Yeah,
At
Japan.
the end of the day, you did the work. You deserve to be paid for the work that you do. That's bottom line. It doesn't matter how much you charge. You deserve to be paid for the work that you do. If you did the work, you deserve to be paid. That's really
Yep.
all it boils down to.
Yep, and I'm working on this with my child who is an artist and getting commissioned and has just run into two incidents where they refused to pay them.
Yeah.
We fought for it and gave these people, because it's on a digital platform where it's like a group of people, so they were able to have these people blocked from the platform and they ended up getting part of the money.
Yeah. See,
So, yeah.
and to Sam's point, people do not care. They don't care that you're a good person. They don't care how old you are. They just do not care. If they're going to scam you, they're going to scam you. And it doesn't matter who it's done to. It's not right. So you have to protect yourself. You have to be the
Yeah.
one to protect you. They're not going to do it for you. If you leave yourself open to be scammed or to be taken advantage of, people are likely going to do it. Hmm.
Yep, and
Unfortunately.
designers too, like freelance designers. Make sure
Oh, yeah.
you have, like I told my child as well, someone commissioned them for something. They did the job, they got paid, but then the person turned around and gave the artwork to a well-known TikToker with no credit to my child. I had them reach out to the content creator. So we're just waiting to hear back because that's not right either. But I taught them, and maybe this will help you too, freelance designers. I taught them to hide a signature, their signature on a piece, so
Yeah.
that if it ever was someone claim that they did the drawing, you have a signature hidden.
Yeah. That's such a really good point you bring up, Sam, because the not even just taking advantage, the theft, let's call it what it is. The theft that happens in the design and content creation space is so real. And
Yep.
it is so pervasive, happens all of the time. I have had it happen to me. I'm sure, Sam, that happens to you as well.
Yep.
Whether it's content that you're creating for social media channels that you manage, whether it's designs or images that you create that you take the time to develop and to design and to put out there, people are going to steal it. That's just the bottom line. And I promise you, and this is not even just, oh, these are unscrupulous people. I had this happen to me on LinkedIn, y'all.
Yep.
Someone took my design from a different platform and put it on LinkedIn and said
Oh, I
unknown.
remember that. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. No, it didn't. It wasn't unknown. And so it happens so often. It will happen by professionals. Please don't fall for the hype. Please find ways to protect yourself. I started putting watermarks on my content, especially on my images. I've started stamping them in weird ways on purpose. And I never do the same stamp twice in the same location because I'm not saying that people can't still take it and manipulate it or whatever, but it's going to make it a little bit harder for people to do that.
Yeah, because if
So
you
yeah.
use InDesign, you can put a text box and send it to back, like under a
Yep.
color, make the text the same color so no one would
Mhm.
ever know
Exactly.
that it's there. But also, to Nicole's point, we're in a world where people are more concerned of just getting out there, having the most followers, and
Oh yeah.
so they're going to take whatever they can to boost their followers and
Yeah.
everything. So that's another thing.
Exactly. Like people, everyone's trying to go viral. Everyone, everywhere. It doesn't matter what platform. Everyone is trying to be the next viral sensation. And unfortunately, that means by any means necessary. So, something else to think about what you might want to do, especially if you're a designer, not only watermark your content in a certain way so that if you ever have to dispute it, you can just be like, well, actually, I can prove that it's my content because I will do this find. And guess what you'll find in here? And everyone will be like, ooh, that's so cool. No, but more importantly, what is something you need to keep in mind is put some terms and conditions on your website. You need to put something around the use of images, not to be used without permission. Don't just trust that people are generally good and they mean and no one's going to use your content. Bullshit.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so
Unfortunately,
yeah, so make sure that you put something on your content that says not to be used without the express permission or however you want to word that. Now, if the content that you put out there is meant to be used, then sure, no problem. But if it isn't, make sure you put that clearly. It's the same reason why people put that in books on the copyright page because people will steal.
yes. Oh, yes.
People will steal and they'll use the content and they'll remix it. And I have seen variations of content that I have written pop up places, which is wild
Mm-hmm.
to me. It happens, people. And we're not saying that to scare you, but just to give you the reality of what it is. People will steal your stuff. They just
Yep.
will. And protect yourself as best as you can, as much as you can. The really nice thing about it when it comes to copyright law, I'm not a copyright lawyer. Let me just say that up front. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not any kind of lawyer whatsoever. So let me be clear with that. But what I, what I do know is with copyright law, which I love when it comes to written work, and I'm only going to speak about written work because it gets a little bit of a rabbit hole when it comes to digital images, especially with the proliferation of AI. Totally different story. But when it comes to written content, the really nice thing is the moment you create the content, it is copyrighted. The moment you create it and put it in a public space, it is copyrighted. You don't have to send it to the copyright office. You don't have, it is protected the moment it is gone from your brain
Yeah.
to a printed medium. And that is so amazing because that gives you instant protection. So if you create content and you put it out there and then you see it somewhere else, I'm not saying that people can't have the same ideas, but if your content is verbatim somewhere else, someone has stolen your stuff, that is copyright infringement. You absolutely have recourse. You can do something about that, and you can actually go after that person if they're taking your content. So, something to keep in mind when it comes to trademarks and all, that's a whole different story.
Yep.
So, we're not going to get into that. Maybe at some point we can have some type of attorney come on and answer some questions. That might be cool.
Yeah, actually.
So, yeah, definitely protect yourself, get a contract. You may need multiple contracts depending on what you work on. Make sure the terms are clear. If you're not sure, have someone look it over that's actually an attorney. Get our legal service on retainer. Subscription services are pretty affordable. I'm not saying they're everyone can afford to spend $30 a month, but if you're gonna have a business, you should be able to do that. You're gonna definitely have expenses as a freelancer if you're really wanting to take this seriously and make a go of it. You need to have either funds set aside or a dedicated credit card that you use specifically for the purposes of business expenses because you will have expenses if you're really going to do this and take this seriously.
Yep. And I think that could lead into our next topic.
Indeed.
Um,
Indeed again.
oh, excuse me, I had to stretch for a moment. Oh boy. Sorry. We wanted to talk briefly, not briefly, but ghosting.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
say with the contract, actually, sometimes you think you have the job, you do the contract, you sign it, and then you never hear from the person again.
Yeah.
Or,
Ghosting doesn't just happen in the dating world. It very much happens in the
yeah,
working world all the time.
yeah, especially when you're, so for example, I know I had said I had quit my job last year, and it took me longer than I thought to get a new position, like a permanent position. I freelanced during the time, but I really needed something permanent for benefits and stuff like that. But I guess what was very disheartening is that you would have interviews that would go really well. You would take the editing test and they would say that you did well, and then you never hear from them again. And even
Yeah.
trying to follow up, no response, nothing. And that's super frustrating, especially when they won't even respond to give you, even if it's no, you could, how hard is it to just be like, hey, we decided to move forward with someone else so that you have
Right.
closure? It's just so disheartening and rude, of course. But for example, there was an agency I really wanted to get into. I had wanted to for years. I finally made it to the interview phase and did well on my editorial test, and then nothing. After a while, I just kept getting like angry. So I sent this really long, not long, but really long email to the person because her title was People, Culture, and Talent Manager. So I just wrote saying how ironic that was her title, but she couldn't be bothered to even tell me no or whatever.
Boom.
So yeah, so she responded and apologized profusely, and they decided to move forward with someone else. And I wrote back and I said, "How hard was that to
Not
just
hard at
tell me
all.
that?" Yeah,
That's not what she said.
yeah, nope. So see, I said, as your title's ironic, you could have just been like, "No, we decided to move with someone else." So I had closure, so I could explore other avenues.
Exactly. And honestly, it really goes both ways.
That's
But
what she said.
she did. She did indeed. But when it comes to ghosting, it's so incredibly rude. I get it. You're busy, you have all of these other applicants. You really, especially when you're getting, it's one thing to not respond to the application, the initial submission, right? But if you've engaged with an individual, you've said, hey, we like you for this role, and you've gone through those steps, you owe them the decency and courtesy of giving them an update. I have had situations where I make it all the way to the interview round and then I hear nothing else. That's just not cool. It's different, especially when it comes to agencies. If you're the recruiter, you need to let the person know they decided to go in a different direction. We're not gonna hunt you down or anything. We just want closure.
Yeah, I know.
And
It's not like we're gonna blow up on it. Like, thank
it's
you.
just
Thank you for taking the time to just say, hey.
exactly. And it makes me wonder, think about, like we talked about last week, the fear sometimes that we have of opening our email because we're like down to the wire on a deadline. I wonder if that's some of what's happening with recruiters. Like they're so afraid to let people know, which is weird, but I just don't get it. If someone is not moving forward, let them know that. There's no reason to keep them hanging, make them wonder, okay, well, what happened? Also, it could be helpful feedback. Maybe there's something that someone is
Yep.
inadvertently doing that is actually costing them the opportunity. It would be
Yep.
good to know that. Maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that they went with a different candidate. It's just recruiters need to do better. Like, just bottom line, there are too many recruiters out here that are ghosting candidates, and it's ridiculous. You reach out, the candidate is super responsive, and I think that's the other thing that's really frustrating when you have recruiters that reach out. When you're like, every time they send you a message, you're quick to respond, you're very responsive, you're staying on top of it because you're very eager about the opportunity, but they don't give you the same courtesy. And they expect you to be responsive. They expect you to
Yeah.
stay on top of things. I had one recruiter that would email me, and if I didn't respond within 2 minutes, she was calling me. And you
Oh yeah,
know,
that's a no. Don't do
yeah, and so my
red
thing is
flag.
like, you're super eager leading up to it, and then when it doesn't pan out, you're
Yep.
like, oh, who's no, forgotten, I'm moving on. We're still waiting. The
Yeah,
people
because
are
they can't
still
make money on
waiting.
you. So that
Right.
opportunity, so they're done with us.
Yeah, and to think that, oh, it doesn't matter because candidates are a dime a dozen, they're not. Let me be very clear. Sure, applicants are a dime a dozen,
Qualified
100%.
candidates aren't.
Thank you very much, point blank. Yes, absolutely. Like, not that we are not the ones who have the qualifications, who are very good at what they do, the ones that are going to be hired, they're not a dime a dozen. And you can't just ghost every single, at some point, you're going to run out of people to ghost.
Yeah.
And then you're going to earn a reputation of being a ghoster, and it's going to get around, and they're going to be like, oh, no, don't work with such and such. I have seen LinkedIn actually get much more spicy than before,
Yeah.
where they will actually they will out recruiters that are ghosting people. They will put their names on posts. Nobody wants that. Don't be on the wall of shame because you can't take 2 minutes to say they went in a different direction.
It's like at the grocery store when there's a picture of people.
Like, yeah, the ghosting wall of shame. Maybe we should start a ghosting wall of shame. I think
We
that would catch
should.
on like wildfire because there are so many people out there that are just being ghosted. And I get, like I said, I get it when you can't reach out to thousands of applicants and let them know. In that case, at minimum, you should have an automated system that says, thank you for your response, blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, you should at least do that, I would think. But the candidates that make it through like the next round and get to the point where they could be potentially considered, they deserve a notification. They
Yeah,
do.
especially like you went through the editorial test and were
Exactly.
told that you did really well, or you don't hear any feedback and you're like, did I tank it? Like, what
Exactly.
happened? But one thing I appreciate is, as I said before, I do book editing and I passed the test for graphic novels. So I decided
Of
to take the
course.
test for regular books, so to speak, and I didn't pass it. And I asked why, and they told me it turns out I over edited. And I guess I understood that. Note to self is like they only really wanted egregious errors.
Yeah.
So
And
it was good to know. I'm going to take it again with that knowledge in mind. But
and
yeah, they explained it and it made me feel better because I thought, oh my God, did I like miss something? But they said it was just over editing.
yeah, and see, they took the time to let you know and give you that feedback, and that is something you can then use and say, okay, for the future, I know this, or for the future, I know to get clarification. How would you like me to approach this edit? How would you like me to do this? And those are things that actually only help you do better. But if you don't know what you don't know, how can you? You cannot.
Exactly.
Please don't stop ghosting people like recruiters. If any of you are listening, stop it. Cut it out right
Yep.
now.
And that goes on the other flip side of freelancers. If
Yes.
you don't
Oh, yeah.
aren't interested in the work, don't just ignore the potential client. Let them know that, oh, hey, this I don't think this is going to work out.
Yeah, especially if you've taken the work, please don't take the work and then ghost your client, because trust me, you will have a target on your back. They will come for you and say, you
Yep.
know what, don't work with this person because they are notorious for ghost. Even if you're the only person, if you only ghosted that one person, they will 100% tell the story that you are notorious for ghosting.
Yep. And you're also taking work from someone else.
Exactly. And also, even when it comes to a deadline, if you're missing a deadline, don't ghost your client. Let them know.
Yeah,
If
there's
the
no
deadline
shame in
has,
that. If you need more
right,
time, instead of rushing through it to meet a deadline, be like, hey, would it be okay if I had an extra day or something? I've done it many times. And for the most part, they're very receptive for that because they go for quality over
exactly.
like time or
Yeah. And also, you ghosting them it's not like that makes it so that they don't know you've missed the deadline. If the deadline has come and gone, they know you've missed it.
and you're making them miss their deadline.
So you staying silent only makes it worse. And the longer you stay silent, the worse it becomes. So please communicate. I'm not going to try that other word. Communicate with, with your clients. Don't make them have to come look for you. Don't leave someone hanging, especially if you've taken the work and agreed to do the work. It will come back to haunt you as well. Please, it goes both ways. You don't want people ghosting you. It probably irritates you. It irritates the heck out of me when I get ghosted. I
Oh my God,
then
yeah.
if you turn around and do it to someone else, you're just bringing that type of energy on yourself in the long run.
Yes.
Just
Yep.
saying.
You just want productive relationships for all involved and do good work, get a good reputation, and build from there.
Exactly. Yeah. We got through these two topics faster than I thought we would, actually. I thought it would take us a little bit longer. I felt like I had so much to say when it comes to ghosting.
But I think we covered pretty much everything with that.
We did, actually. And then contracts, we pretty much told you, what the important things to know when it comes to contracts, the important things to definitely read the fine print. Don't sign anything without reading it. That would be
Yep.
weird. Don't also something else. This seems very simple, but always check if you have, especially if you're working with an agency, there are going to be multiple things you need to sign. They usually include the rate sheet on a separate document. Make sure you check it, make sure it matches what you agreed to. Don't sign something without looking at the amount, because then you are essentially holding yourself to whatever's on the contract. So make sure you check it before you sign it. Don't sign blindly, especially when it comes to freelancing, when it comes to working. That should be for everything. I know when it comes to different apps and stuff, we never read the terms and conditions. And for all we know, it could say that we're committing to give them our firstborn. We never know. But when it comes to contracts, please make sure you look it over. Make sure you look at every part of it. If there's anything that isn't clear or you're unsure about, ask, question it, get clarification. It never hurts. If they're not willing to give you clarification, you should abort immediately.
Yep. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they said.
Pretty much. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Please come back next week, Thursday. What are we going to talk about next week, Thursday, Sam?
Oh dear Lord.
I know I'm totally putting you on the spot. What are we going to talk about? Here's one topic I think could be pretty cool. How about work from home resources,
Oh
places
yeah,
you can go to? Yeah. Go
and you
ahead.
had the good one of office setup. It just dawned on me. Yep.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, yeah, and that goes perfectly. So, two topics. Maybe as I'm saying this, Sam will come up with a third. No pressure. But the two topics so far are places you can check out, legitimate places where you can find work from home opportunities, including freelancing. We will talk about that. We've got a lot of places that we use that have given us really good results, not just good results, but actually landed us contracts. Yes, we'll talk about
Oh,
that.
we could talk about building your client base through word of mouth.
Boom. Yes. So those all go really well. So we'll do work from home options, resources, places we go to that are legit. Number two, your home office setup. How do you set that up? What does that look like? And number three, how to build your clientele base.
Be
Really good
proud of
job.
me. I like wrote them down this time, so
I'm so proud of you. Well
thank
done.
you.
So yeah, come back next week because I think you're gonna really appreciate it because these are universal resources for anyone who wants to get into the freelance game, or maybe you want to transition to work from home full time. Maybe you're tired of commuting. Both Sam and I work 100% from home and have been
Oh,
doing
that's
that.
another thing you can put into your
Yeah.
contract,
Oh yeah. Oh
especially
yeah.
if they require, if it's a place that mentioned freelancing in office.
Yes, absolutely. You can negotiate that as well. And putting it in the contract makes it so that you don't have to worry about them changing that down the road 100%. So, yeah, Sam and I both work from home full time. I feel like I've been doing that forever, but it's not true. I actually used to go into the office back in like pre pandemic. I was going into the office a couple of days a week. And then post pandemic, obviously, most of us who were doing white collar jobs began to work from home. And I realized I never wanted to go back into the office ever again in life.
I've worked from home so long that I don't even know how to act appropriately anymore.
Yeah, both of us are very fortunate. And if you're looking to actually transition to work from home, oh my goodness, we have some really good resources for you that you can check out. And not just LinkedIn, because everyone is on LinkedIn, guys, and LinkedIn is oversaturated when it comes to applications and opportunities. Everyone is applying to the same jobs. There are other really cool places you can check out where you can get some good jobs and actually be working from home and living your best life. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk
Yep.
about your office setup, what that looks like for us, some really good tools and equipment that we both use, must have equipment, especially if you are not just an editor, as someone, if you're doing the type of work that requires a lot of digital space. I know that's
Yeah,
not the
and
right
going
term.
back and forth and stuff between
Like
computers. Yep.
if you require a big, oh, here it is. If you require a big digital canvas for your work, then we got the tools for you.
Yep.
And yes, and also, gosh, it just went out of my head again. What was the third one?
Oh, wait, I gotta look at my list. I wrote it down. Hold on. Building client base.
Boom. Okay. And building, how do you build your client base? Where do you start? And this will tie in nicely to the resources that we're talking about. How the heck do you build your client base? How do you get more clients? How do you get your first client? Start there. How do you
Yep.
even do that? We're going to talk about it, guys. So come back same time next week. Yes,
Yes,
same time
please
next
come
week.
back. Ghost us.
Yes, don't ghost us. Ghost us. Please come back. We like you. We hope you like us too because we want to keep doing this.
Yeah,
And in order to do this, to sound like a PBS special, it requires subscribers like you.
exactly. And we want to build our own client base, so to speak, with listeners. And if you
Exactly.
have any topics you'd like us to touch upon or go over, let us know. Leave a comment.
Yes, leave a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about. If you have any clarifying questions, any follow up questions, leave us a message. We are on multiple locations. Go to YouTube, leave us a message, go to LinkedIn, leave us a comment, or send us a message, or check us out on Facebook. We've got three different options for you guys. We'll probably have more down the road, but those are the three main ones right now. You can leave us a message at any time. Please be kind, don't be rude. Seen some rude
Yes.
ones, but it's okay. We know you're just haters. That's fine.
Yep.
But just be kind. And obviously, we will not respond to any hateful or ugly messages.
Nope.
But if you have legitimate questions and you're trying to get started, how do you set yourself up? If you want to start a blog, I'm got some pretty good tips for you. I've got a couple of blogs out there, several actually. Send us a comment, send us a message. If you have design questions, Sam is the go to when it comes to that. If you're just getting started and just are wondering where the heck to go, come check us out.
Yep. We
That's all we
got it.
got,
We
guys.
got you.
Yes, we do. And until next time, Have a wonderful day.
An excellent week. We will talk to you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.